Sarasota, Florida, a picturesque city along the Gulf Coast, known for its sandy beaches, quiet neighborhoods, and safe suburban life. For families, it was the kind of place where doors were rarely locked and children played freely outside. But on November 7, 1997, that sense of safety was shattered forever. Inside one family home, a brutal act of violence unfolded that would leave 6 children motherless, and an entire community reeling in shock. The victim was 35-year-old Sheila Bellish, a devoted mother of 6, whose life was taken in one of the most haunting crimes Sarasota had ever seen. That afternoon, at around 4:15 p.m., Sheila's 13-year-old daughter Stevie returned home from school, her heart racing with excitement. She had just received the kind of news every teenage girl dreams of. A boy she liked had asked her to the school dance. She could already picture herself twirling across the dance floor, imagining the dress, the shoes, and the accessories that would make the night unforgettable. But as she reached her front door, Stevie's excitement shifted to confusion, then dread. The door was wide open, something that never happened in their home. Inside, silence lingered heavy in the air. She called out for her mother, but there was no answer. Carefully stepping into the kitchen, Stevie was met with a sight no child should ever witness. Her mother lay lifeless on the floor, blood pooling across the tiles. The counters and walls bore violent spatter marks, telling the story of an attack too brutal to comprehend. Overcome with panic, Stevie tried to use the kitchen phone, but the receiver itself was smeared with blood. Shaking, she ran to another room to find a phone. With trembling hands, she began to dial for help, only to hesitate, clinging to a desperate hope that what she had seen wasn't real. But when she returned to the kitchen, the truth was undeniable. Her mother was gone. When police arrived, they found Sheila collapsed on the kitchen floor, face down. Her body bore the devastating wounds of a close-range gunshot. The scene was gruesome, but the most heartbreaking detail wasn't the brutality of the crime. It was who had been left behind. Sheila was the mother of 6 children, including 4 toddlers, quadruplets, not yet 2 years old. The babies had been inside the home during the attack, wandering in the hallway as their older sister made the horrifying discovery. Only one of the toddlers, little Timmy, was able to form words. When his father gently tried to coax an answer from him, Timmy spoke the only truth his young mind could grasp. A man came in and hurt Mommy. Investigators quickly ruled out burglary. Nothing valuable had been stolen, and there were no signs of sexual assault. This wasn't a random act of violence. Whoever entered the Bellish home had one clear purpose: to kill Sheila. And soon, detectives would discover this crime wasn't the work of a stranger, but the end result of a chilling conspiracy driven by betrayal, greed, and obsession. Sheila Lee Walsh was born on October 19, 1962, in Topeka, Kansas. From a young age, she stood out not only for her striking blonde hair and warm smile, but also for her determination and resilience. Friends and family admired her as someone who never backed down, no matter the challenge. After high school, Sheila began working as a receptionist at a law firm, but she dreamed of more. She longed for love, stability, and a family of her own. In 1982, fate seemed to grant her wish. She met Alan, a man who appeared to be everything she wanted: handsome, articulate, ambitious, and full of charm. Their romance moved quickly. After only 3 dates, Alan proposed. Swept away by emotion, Sheila said yes. They married the same year in Salem, Oregon, and soon welcomed 2 daughters, Stevie and Daryl. On the surface, it looked like the perfect start to a lifelong partnership. But Sheila could not yet see the darker truths hidden beneath Alan's polished image. Alan had been born on June 5, 1955, in Eugene, Oregon, and raised by a volatile single mother. His childhood was marked by abuse, so severe it left both physical and emotional scars. On one occasion, his mother beat him so badly he suffered broken ribs and a fractured cheekbone. On another, in an unimaginable act of cruelty, she doused him with gasoline and tried to set him on fire. Those traumas shaped Alan into a man filled with anger, dishonesty, and a consuming need for control. At first, Sheila believed she had married a dependable, ambitious partner, but soon after their wedding, Alan's true character emerged. He was greedy, reckless, and manipulative. Alan dreamed of starting a chain of electronic stores and convinced Sheila's father, Don Walsh, to invest. Don trusted his son-in-law, transferring property and savings into Alan's hands. But instead of building a business, Alan squandered the money on lavish meals, designer clothes, and luxury living. Within a year, the enterprise collapsed, and the Walsh family was bankrupt. Sheila was devastated, realizing the man she trusted had not only betrayed her, but destroyed her family's financial future. Still and determined to hold her family together, Sheila stayed. Alan rebranded himself with the new name Alan Blackthorne and moved the family to San Antonio, Texas, where he launched a business reselling muscle stimulation devices to doctors. His natural charisma made him a successful salesman, and before long, Alan rebuilt his fortune. But wealth didn't heal their marriage. Instead, Alan's darker tendencies grew more pronounced. Alan's desire for control seeped into every corner of their relationship. His unusual sexual demands, obsession with domination, and violent temper left Sheila emotionally shattered. What began as emotional abuse escalated into terrifying physical assaults, drownings, beatings, humiliation. Eventually, Sheila found the strength to leave. In 1987, after 5 years of marriage, she divorced Alan, but the separation only ignited a bitter war over custody of their daughters, Stevie and Daryl. Even as Sheila tried to move forward, Alan remained a toxic presence in her life. In 1993, Sheila found love again. She married Jamie Bellish, a salesman who brought stability and kindness into her life. To escape Alan's shadow, they relocated to Sarasota, Florida. 2 years later, Sheila gave birth to quadruplets, an extraordinary blessing that transformed their family into a household of 8. For a time, Sheila's life seemed filled with joy, love, and the fresh start she had fought so hard to find. But Alan could not stand to see her happy. Losing custody of his daughters enraged him. Watching Sheila build a new life with a husband and 6 children drove his obsession further. He began plotting revenge. Through his golf buddy, Daniel Roca, Alan found someone willing to help. On November 7, 1997, Del Toro traveled to Sarasota, dressed in camouflage and armed with a .45 caliber gun. He forced his way into the Bellish home, where Sheila was caring for her toddlers. For a moment, Del Toro faltered. Sheila didn't look like the monster Alan had described. She was a loving mother surrounded by her children. But when she screamed in fear, instinct took over. He pulled the trigger. The bullet struck her in the face. To ensure she was dead, he grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed her before fleeing. Behind him, 6 children cried in a house of horror. Detectives moved quickly. A vigilant neighbor had written down the license plate of a suspicious car parked outside the Bellish home. Biological evidence left at the scene linked Del Toro to the crime. Though he fled across the border to Mexico, he was eventually captured, extradited, and in 1999 pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. He received 2 consecutive life sentences without parole. Sammy Gonzalez was sentenced to 15 years for his role in recruiting the killer. Daniel Roca received a life sentence, and ultimately, investigators proved what Sheila's family had long suspected: the mastermind was Alan Blackthorne. He was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without parole. Even in prison, Alan's life spiraled. In 2001, he was attacked by fellow inmates and nearly killed. On November 18, 2014, at the age of 59, he died in federal custody. The exact cause of death was never disclosed. But the real weight of the crime fell on Sheila's children. Stevie and Daryl were just 13 and 11 when they lost their mother. The quadruplets were toddlers. Their father, Jamie, raised them alone, shouldering the enormous responsibility of caring for 6 grieving children. Despite the tragedy, Sheila's children found strength in survival. Stevie, now an adult, has been praised for her resilience, dedicating herself to her community and carrying her mother's legacy of determination. The others have chosen lives of privacy, healing quietly away from public view. Though Sheila's life was cut short in an act of senseless violence, she is remembered as a woman of kindness, warmth, and perseverance. Her love lives on in her children, the ones she fought so hard to protect. This is the tragic story of Sheila Bellish, a mother, fighter, and a victim of betrayal and obsession. Her case reminds us that behind every crime statistic is a family left to pick up the pieces, and a legacy of love that even the darkest cruelty cannot erase.